Hey guys, welcome back to Resistance Chicks.
Welcome.
A little late today.
Fashionably late.
Fashionably late.
If you show up today, you guys get bonus points. I tried to rush in. We had our friend Tim here picking up his dogs, and we...
About time, Wortha Look says. I know, I'm very sorry.
Well, let's jump right into it. I'm so glad that you guys are here.
Today is Sunday, November 25th, 2018. It's our top news for the EU.
It
and
almost becomes
UK.
mind-numbing to talk about Brexit, but there's a larger scheme at play. And actually, Justin, I should let you know that I had a dream last night that you came to America. And you didn't stay long, so I was really upset. If you come to America, you have to come visit us. Okay.
I think that's in the plan.
That's so weird. Like, why would I? It's so weird. Random thing. I also had a dream last night that Donald Trump had some sort of like fighting army going on, like, you know, against the deep state, and I had watched part of the end of Hunger Games, so I think it was a little bit of that playing out. So, anyways, MI6 in the UK is scrambling to stop Trump from releasing the classified docs in the Russia probe. Now, here in America, stateside, we really want Donald Trump to release the documents of this stupid, crazy Russian probe.
Right.
But it all surrounds a British ex-spy named Christopher Steele. Well, this goes straight to, the top government in the UK that, when it comes down to it, meddled in our United States election.
Yes, they did. They do, and they did.
A British ex-spy meddled in our election. So technically, if that's the level that they're using for Russia,
right, we should go to war with the UK.
That's their level. That's the hypocritical thinking of it all, right? But Donald Trump had tweeted out back in September. He says, I met with the DOJ concerning declassification of various unredacted documents. But then he says, also key allies called and asked not to release them. So then he says, well, we'll let the Inspector General finish it. Now, from what I'm understanding, the British government said their problem is that it actually names Christopher Steele. And even though Christopher Steele has been outed in public publications, they don't want his name in an official document release. So it's all back to me, the British formality.
Right.
Like, stay married, but have the affair on the side.
Right.
Have it out in the open. Just don't talk about it very much.
Yeah. That's
you know
exactly
what I mean?
It's like.
Let's just not talk about it. Can we just keep this hush hush? It's real. Everyone knows who this is.
Right.
And to top it all off, see, there's a low level Trump official who was lured to London. Okay. To set him up, to try to set up the Trump campaign. So to me, this is intense UK meddling. Not to mention that Katie Hopkins said that they were like handing out Hillary Clinton mints to kids in school. Yeah. And when Donald Trump was elected, even school teachers were like, you might have to go home and cry and mourn this. I mean, like, talk about meddling in an election. Oh my gosh. Right?
You know what? When Emmanuel Macron was elected the French president, we were okay.
Yeah, so George Papadopoulos is you don't need to know who he is. So there you go. They're out. Can we just say they're out? Now remember, Christopher Steele had really great relations, and this is how I'm marrying some American news with British news, because it just so happens that we're inevitably entwined yet again in all major news. Like, this whole Russia thing for the past 2 years has ruined our lives. Not really, but has really kept Trump from being able to do what he wants to do, make America great again, and in effect, make a lot of great changes to get everyone in the whole entire globe out of the deep state, right? So that's the whole point of this. So you see the deep state is at work within the British government, and with this Christopher Steele guy, British former MI6 agent who was buddy, like texting multiple texts with this Bruce Orr and Nellie, Nellie Orr worked for Fusion GPS, which helped fund Christopher Steele to do all this spying. And this Bruce Orr, who is a top official at the FBI. So it's a horrible intertwining of American deep state with British deep state working to undermine our sitting president.
Right. And this democracy in and of itself.
This should be the biggest story. This is what everyone should be talking about. Our own deep state.
Right.
And the British deep state. conspiring together to undermine the very top office in America and the leader of the free world.
Extra, extra, read all about it. The UK is working with the United States against the United States.
So Christopher Steele also had extensive contacts within the Department of Justice. I think I might have said he was FBI. Sorry, Bruce Orr's Department of Justice, and his wife Nellie, who along with Steele was paid by opposition research firm Fusion GPS in the anti-Trump campaign. Perhaps the Brits are also concerned, since much of the espionage performed in the Trump campaign was actually conducted on UK soil. So you're literally conspiring in the UK to undermine our election, undermine our president. I'm not even kidding. It's just absolutely insane.
But here's the deal. It's kind of part and parcel. We know that these things happen
right
in the different nations. They have always happened in the different nations for all elections, not just the United States or whatever. The reason why this is news and the reason why it should be talked about is because the left chose to come up with this Russian collusion thing and make it a big deal when there was something far larger and far more nefarious at play than just that. And so it's like, okay, if you want to play this game, then you have to, if you're going to call out that, then you have to call out this and every other time where any country, including the United States, interferes in foreign elections.
Remember, okay, this whole Russia thing was literally contrived and set up. This is really bad. The way they're trying to spin it against Donald Trump, saying it was really bad. This is World War III bad, because remember World War II was started by the assassination, of what some guy, we talked about it. World War I was started. I'm sorry, by the assassination of a guy. Who's the guy? Some guy. See how important he was. So anyways, it set off, supposedly set things off. I mean, this is worthy of like going to war, because you can't undermine somebody's elections, which is what they keep saying about Russia.
Right.
You can't undermine somebody's elections. You need to go to war, which is what Hillary Clinton wanted to do. But she literally was trying to set up a war with Russia using using our own government. So you right. war with yourself.
So the reason that the UK doesn't want this exposed is because it's going to expose what they do, but it's more than that. It's going to expose like I just said earlier, every nation is doing this, and the reason, subterfuge.
Thank you.
Every nation does it, and the UK, the only grounds they have to stand on, because a normal sound-minded person would say, why not just expose it? And, why would any nation like the United States listen to the UK saying don't expose it, is because the UK is, in effect, saying, you guys do this, we do it, everybody does it, and if you expose us, you expose everyone. And that is the number one reason why they're saying this can't be exposed.
So I'm going to go over two more key plot points, and then we're going to move on. Now remember, it was George Papadopoulos who was lured to London in March 2016, where this Maltese professor, Joseph Mills, fed him a rumor that Russia had dirt on Clinton. Where's that guy at? He was actually, from what I understand, it was fed to him from our own government to set him up, right? And it was later at a London bar that Papadopoulos would drunkenly pass on this rumor to an Australian diplomat, again, who was supposed to be cozying up to him to see what he had. And then Strzok would fly to London to meet Alexander Downer. Also recall that the CIA FBI informant, Stephen Halper, remember, British guy. It was in, I believe
he was great.
He was the one.
They did a movie about this at some point.
I hope so. Stephen Halper is on George Papadopoulos' list. Okay, Stephen Halper would meet with Carter Page and Papadopoulos where? In London. Halper is a veteran of 4 Republican administrations, reached out to Trump aide George Papadopoulos in September 2016 with an offer to fly to London to write an academic paper on energy exploration in the Mediterranean Sea. Papadopoulos accepted a flight to London and $3,000 honorarium. He claims that during a meeting in London, Halper asked him whether he knew anything about Russia hacking of Democrat emails. Papadopoulos had other contacts on British soil that he now believes were part of a government-sanctioned surveillance operation. In total, Halper received $1 million from the Obama Pentagon for research, over $400,000 for which was granted before and during the 2016 election. So here's a spy being paid to set this guy up. All right.
Oh my gosh. Hollywood scriptwriters couldn't come up with anything better than this. I mean, it's really fantastic.
Right. So Halper was not British. He was a British source. Let me get that clear. Sorry. All right.
Hang on. Facebook Live. Jeremy Keller says, the elite globalist is trying to turn Russia against the United States because if we stay united, we are a great force to be reckoned with. And what it is it's a sleight of hand.
Exactly.
They say Russia, 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 while the real collusion and election fraud is going on over here.
She needs a treat or a snack or up on the couch. She needs something. Okay. All right, guys. This is not spell the end. This is not day of doom. However, the EU and the UK have come to an agreement on Brexit, on their divorce. Now, it doesn't need to go through the EU, from what I understand, to be approved. It does, however, need to be voted in Parliament, and Theresa May has all but guaranteed that no one's going to vote this thing through. But Theresa May said, you're going to vote this through or else. I mean, it's just absolutely insane. So, I guess there was a little bit of craziness going on with Spain and late night talks about Gibraltar early Saturday morning. Then today, right now, there's an emergency UK summit, but it's, I guess, merely a formality. So this seemingly interminable 2-year period of back and forth negotiations. On Sunday, the European Union, UK Prime Minister Theresa May, and leaders of the remaining EU members finally approved a deal on the UK's departure from the EU. Now, of course, Nigel Farage says it's, a joke. Donald Tusk says the EU27 has endorsed the withdrawal agreement and political declaration on the future EU-UK relations, meaning vassal state status.
Isn't this the deal that has promised future troops to this EU army? Isn't this the same deal?
That's one point I didn't go over. We went over like 40 negative points of this last week.
Okay.
But I don't know if that was part of it.
Okay.
There's a lot in this 500 some odd page document, 585 page. The agreement, which was earlier approved by the UK government, consists when you say UK government, who are you talking about? Consists of 2 key documents. The first is a 585-page withdrawal paper. Will guide both sides all the way up to Britain's departure from the bloc, which is set for March 29, 2019. This legally binding text covers the UK's divorce bill, citizens' rights, and various measures ensuring there is no hard border between Northern Ireland. That's their excuse, the whole hard border between Northern Ireland. Well, you got to do what we say, or you're going to have this hard border with Northern Ireland, and everybody's going to be, cut off forever. And it will start March 2019, and then there will be another transition period set until November 2020.
Horatio says parliamentary debate and vote on the deal the 10th and 11th of December. It won't get passed.
Thank you for that, because it said sometime in May. In
Theresa May.
December. In December. Have to have you Horatio back on to discuss it, if he'll come on. Oh, as part of the agreement, Britain has agreed to pay around $50 billion to the EU, mainly to cover commitments it had made to the bloc's budget. The UK will guarantee a broad swath of legal rights to the roughly 3 million EU citizens living in the UK, and the EU will reciprocate with respect to an estimated 1.3 million UK citizens in its member states. The agreement also seeks to ensure that no physical border will re-emerge between Northern Ireland, which is part of the UK. The second, a non-binding document, is a political declaration that outlines aspirations for the future, including maintaining trade relations, common foreign, blah, 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 criminal justice. In a press conference following the endorsement, European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker, Tusk, and the EU Brexit negotiator Michael Barnier stressed that the deal is absolutely the best one possible for the EU. For the deep state elitists in the EU, it is the best one possible.
Yes, it is.
Seriously, it's not a negotiation. It's a surrender. Can we just kind of put that out there? I love what Juncker says. This is the best deal possible. This is the only deal possible. You know what? Sometimes you need to think outside the box. The remark was echoed by Barnier, who also noted that the EU has worked constructively with the UK and never against the UK, liar. However, Juncker has said that the biggest part of the work in the tragic moment of the divorce still lies ahead. Payments to be made, but the future understanding is one that has to be construed. British Prime Minister Theresa May held a press conference in which she again declared that the deal was the best one available, while still coming across as trying to launch a last-ditch attempt to safeguard the agreement. In doing so, the PM did not mince her words, stating that the UK can have a bright future with the deal or more of uncertainty if it fails to pass through. So you will do what I tell you to do or else. A great parent. Promising to make the case for the deal with all my heart, Theresa May announced with British MPs will have their say. Announced that British MPs will have their say on it before Christmas. That vote has been labelled by the UK Prime Minister as the most significant one that Parliament has held in years. To be sure, May has reasons to worry about the agreement, as it has received a far more stern pushback from British politicians. Several parliamentarians resigned over the plan, and we talked about this extensively last year. And remember last week, and Boris Johnson back in July called it polishing a turd.
He did do that.
To quote Boris Johnson.
Stuart the Brit said that Nigel Farage showed his true colors this week. I think he called him a little git. I don't even know what that is. We might get to that a little bit later.
She literally says, if people think there is another negotiation to be done, that is not the case. This is the only deal possible. In fact, as the Wall Street Journal notes, so otherwise you'll be stuck with many more STDs, no sandwiches, and all their, horrible fear mongering that went on. When you know that they're going, they say, we have to have this deal or you're going to get STDs. They have literally come to the
best
bottom.
Segment that we ever got to cover, I feel like. I mean, this is so absurd. And the sandwiches, I mean, for those of you that are lost
and there were 60 things that they said you wouldn't have, or bad things that would happen to you.
Because of Brexit. You'll get more STDs.
No insulin would come through, no medicines. Oh, my gosh. Jeremy Corbyn says it's a bad
Horatio says also today they've said we'll run out of clean water.
The only time I might partially agree with Jeremy Corbyn, I am going to quote him here. This is a bad deal for all the country. It is the result of a miserable failure of negotiation that leaves us with the worst of all worlds. It gives us less say over our future and puts jobs and living standards at risk. This is why Labour will oppose this deal in the Parliament.
It is interesting that Brexit is a bipartisan issue. Yeah. Okay. So there are people that just want to be a sovereign nation, be, single and independent. Mm-hmm. At the same time, you could say that there might be some that are objecting to the deal because they are still trying to push for abolishing Brexit altogether. You know what I'm saying?
The EU leaders have warned that if the British Parliament votes down the agreement, better conditions will not be offered. Here's the thing, guys. The EU needs the UK. And I think that is the stance that Theresa May hasn't come from. Mm. We're negotiating.
Right.
You need me, and I need you.
Right.
But you need me. Okay? But the EU has been acting like a bully, saying, you need us. You need us. The UK has been able to stand on its own 2 feet, which is what Brexit has always been about.
Right.
For millennium. Okay? For thousands of years. Okay? You guys are awesome. You can do great things. And to say that you need France, Germany. I mean, seriously. I mean, you guys have fought for wars. Like, that's wars for centuries. Like, it's just, that's what you do. You just fight. It's fine. You marry people across. You try to stop the fighting. That's what you do. I mean, that's all history books. All movies are made of this. Okay? And somehow life went on.
Yeah.
Okay? You're not fighting. That's good. And you know what? There's going to be things in the UK that the rest of Europe needs. And there's going to be things in Europe the UK needs. Can we just not be nice about it? The EU doesn't want a good deal because then everybody else will leave.
Right.
So you have to be punished. But you have to... The UK is not coming from a place of strength. You need me.
Yeah.
You need me. You need a negotiator who thinks they need you.
Right.
They need you. Right? It's like actually... You're trying to be you're a star player, and, the footballers are trying to sign you on.
Right.
They need you. Hold your ground.
Right.
They want you. All right?
So, Sanhar says the EU can keep their STDs and make me a sandwich. Britt Baza tells me that the GIT word that I read out loud just means SHIT. So sorry about that. Didn't know. I'm not reading any more comments of words I don't know from people from other countries. Let's see. Sir the Brit said they have already started other ports to take the trucks away from France. I'm Just a Man says Brexit is a vote. It's done, deliver, or face lawful rebellion. Horatio says Labour are opposing purely to cause enough political trouble to force an election. Bluntly Blonde wants to know, are you guys going to talk about Tommy getting attacked?
Oh, I haven't heard about Tommy being attacked.
We are going to cover Tommy and the UKIP thing and Gerard Batten a little bit later.
At the heart of the talks will lie the trade-off. To what extent is the UK willing to cede sovereignty to the EU in return to access to customers in its 27 member states? The closer Britain follows the EU's rules, the fewer obstacles its firms will encounter in exporting to the country's main trading partner. Britain's continued membership of the EU's custom area and any future decisions to follow EU rules to trade with the bloc would complicate the UK's desire to build a future outside of the bloc. For example, by striking its own trade deals with countries such as the US, a priority of the pro-Brexit campaigners. And so you have this constant battle where, the countries themselves will negotiate with you on a much fairer balance.
Yeah.
Which is what the EU is supposed to be. We're going to create, it's supposed to be a hub. So you could just trade right through to your countries. We're just going to be your hub, and you're just going to easily flow. But they haven't become that. It's not a trade organization anymore. They control. Now we're talking about migration. They want the UN wants this migration pact to be signed. I'm going to talk about that. But they are controlling. I mean, seriously, if you guys were your own country, you had your own borders, you wouldn't be flooded with all this illegal migration and terror attacks. And you'd be safer and better off. So what are the Well, it's so much more broad than that. Those are the topics that we talk about because they mean something to our viewers around the world. Right.
But things that mean something to the people in the UK are the fishing rights, actual laws, regulations that have been put on farmers. I mean, the list is literally endless for how the tentacles of the EU have gotten into the UK, which is why people have voted for Brexit, because they're like, listen, they're just starting to pull the plug, get off of me, leave me to my country. We can make our own decisions. We don't want the EU. It was supposed to be all about free trade, but that's even a lie right there, Leah, because you and I both know it was never about free trade.
Right. So here's a crazy chart on this whole thing that is so convoluted. Sometimes you do just need to okay, we're done with the craziness. It's too confusing.
We're done.
Right? So there's a chart here that has 25th November EU Summit, withdrawal treaty. If no agreement, you get January 20 UK House of Commons neutral motion. January through March UK Parliament no deal. And it's all these, what's going to happen? I don't know. It's all way too confusing, and they make it this way so that no one ever does this again. And we can't even talk about it because we don't even know what it is. What is going on? It's absolutely insane. So, for now, it's going to Parliament. It's going to be voted on. I know that.
Where the Look says small and medium-sized businesses can't grow because of all the red tape.
So then you go back to the EU. Parliament has sent a message. This doesn't work for us. We want more. May goes back to Brussels, hat in hand, and asks for more. And then I'm wondering, will she be voted out? Some people are saying, be brave and you're no.
How many letters were written?
We don't know for a fact. We said that there was. We heard that there was a deal made behind bars that they were going to bring up a no confidence vote. But
interesting.
That was what we covered last Sunday. And it didn't happen during the week.
So Britt Baza says Winston Churchill had a famous quote: "We are of Europe, but we are not part of Europe. If asked to become part of Europe, we must look to the open sea." Well, now we are looking to the open sea.
And here is Theresa May's letter to the nation and she hashtags back the Brexit deal. And I'm not going to read that, but some of the comments are pretty scathing.
They are, aren't they?
Yeah.
Very colorful language. The Brits are good at that. You Brits
Yeah.
are good at that.
Here's what I want to do with your deceitful letter, Mrs. May, and while I'm at it, I'll cremate the political declaration and withdrawal agreement too. Dear Prime Minister, I respect your honorable intentions, but you know that this deal would be thoroughly bad for the UK and crucially also fails to deliver on whatever it was that the people thought they were voting for in 2016. My letter to you, resign.
Horatio says that there's an issue with toppling May. There's no one to replace her. So if she wins a vote of confidence, she has a year before she can be ousted again.
That is, yeah, there you have that. There is that.
Leave it to Horatio to come and just like burst bubbles.
No, it's
kidding.
true.
You're right.
May's betrayal agreement signed, Britain on the road to Brexit from Breitbart in name only. EU leaders have signed off on the Brexit agreement negotiated with Theresa May, described as the worst deal in history by Leavers. The Remain voting Prime Minister's deal with the European Union, if ratified by the British Parliament and European Parliament, could condemn the United Kingdom to perpetual purgatory, or even no Brexit at all, as Britain's departure would be followed by a lengthy transition period in which it would remain subject to all the rules and all the regulations of an EU member state, but without representation in the EU's institutions. We talked about this a lot last week. European Commissioner Jean-Claude Juncker, and everybody said it's wonderful, yay, this is great, best deal possible, blah blah blah. The transition was originally envisioned as a period in which a new relationship between the United Kingdom and the European Union would be implemented, but this has not happened, and it will be instead used as an extended negotiating period. Also, the withdrawal agreement makes no provision for this transition to be extended for a further 2 years if a future relationship is not finalized, or for the UK and the EU to fall back on a divisive backstop arrangement in which the UK would sign up to an EU-regulated single customs territory, which largely duplicates the EU customs union. Under the backstop, the British province of Northern Ireland would have to meet additional obligations to the EU in order to keep the border with the EU Ireland open, and that's what everybody's talking about. Ireland. What about Ireland? Brexiteers believed it is highly unlikely that the EU will, in fact, negotiate a mutually beneficial trade deal. Obviously. And basically, the European Union must be obeyed. It isn't just Theresa May telling little people to shut up and do as they're told. European President Jean-Claude Juncker took the opportunity this morning to warn British members of Parliament to vote for May's deal when they come to ratify the deal she struck. The European Commission chief is urging the British Parliament to back the Brexit deal brokered between the EU and Prime Minister Theresa May, saying this is the only deal. At the end of a largely ceremonial summit to rubber stamp the UK withdrawal, Juncker made it clear that to the British House of Commons and that they should not count on starting a negotiation. It would not be a good idea to lecture the House, he said. The deal must be endorsed by the British Parliament and the EU Parliament. Opposition parties and many in May's own Conservative party have opposed the agreement.
Most sound-minded people.
Exactly.
Look at them just getting along so famously.
Yeah. So we're gonna go on. What I want to do is talk about this rolls into this migration pact. I don't know if you guys have heard much about it, but like Slovakia just said that they're not going to sign it. There's a UN migration pact, and basically it means that you have to do what they say on migration, and it also controls what you can say negatively about migration.
Yeah.
And while the debate in the UN Migration Pact rages worldwide, with a growing number of nations following the United States in withdrawing, thank you, Jesus, the major deal has seen little discussion in the United Kingdom. Britain's ruling Conservative Party made pledges to reduce immigration from the hundreds of thousands to the tens of thousands in 2010, 2015, and 2017. Indeed, net migration to Britain still runs at over 270,000 a year. Either way, signing the United Nations so-called Global Compact on Migration for safe, orderly, and regular migration, which has nothing to do with being safe, orderly, or regular, would be a major step away from ever realizing that commitment, the campaign group said. British peer Lord Green of Deddington submitted 2 parliamentary questions to the government this week in which he requested information on whether and how the globalist pledge to ease and enhance migration would fit with the Conservatives' long-standing progress to bring it into control it. Several recent polls have indicated that controlling immigration remains a very important topic for British voters. The press release by Migration Watch UK and the London-based campaign group, which Lord Green leads, said of the pact, the UK government should make it clear that it will not sign if they have any regard for their election promises. It would be entirely hypocritical to do so. And I guess Australia has already left this UN Migration Pact and won't risk his hard-won border success. I think in the very beginning we showed you that ad that they put out.
That was
Don't
pretty intense.
come. Don't come. Don't risk your lives. Don't come in the ocean. You're not getting into our country. They are an island, by the way, which the UK is as well, but somehow people find their way.
And you know what's really interesting?
Is it always?
How
do they get in? Through the channel?
It seems like you want all or nothing, right? So we're going to talk about Gerard Bratton and Tommy and Nigel Farage and all that. You can't have it all with everyone. When you have Australia and they come up with this amazing video and they are keeping everybody out from coming on their boats and everything like that. But then at the same time, when we talk about maybe gun rights and issues like that, then Australia kind of falls. So I want you guys, because from a United States standpoint, our education system really does a poor job of giving us a healthy worldview. And so we want to, all of a sudden, they put out this great video. Hey, we're going to back and support Australia. We must be buddy-buddy. I bet they love Donald Trump and all this. It's not like that.
While you're talking, can you bring up this video? You can play it for them. It's on in YouTube.
So anyway, that was it. And I wanted to call out Michael Thomas. We haven't seen him in a while. And I asked how he was doing with the fires.
Aww.
He said that they were crazy and made the air quality horrible. Michael Thomas is a moderator from way back early last year. But I know he's busy and has a life, but we're happy to see you here today. All right, carry on. I'll get that video.
Okay, yeah, I wanted to be sure to play this 2-minute video where this German reporter tells exactly what the most important parts of the the United Nations Global Compact for Migration are. I believe Canada's already signed up for it in praising it. I think that it's very interesting. I think Sweden signed on to it. Obviously, Poland did not. Hungary did not.
Czech Republic, maybe.
Yeah, and while you're bringing that up, this is if you would like chills down your spine or just be grossed out.
No, thanks.
Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton is in the news with Europe. Why? She has the audacity to come out and say, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! Europe's had enough migration," and the way she says it is like this. I know that I have conspired with George Soros and all of the deep state to fill Europe with migration. However, they have to pull it back a little bit because they're losing control.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And she literally says...
Like Frankenstein?
She doesn't say you have to pull back migration because of any sort of problems, because of violence or terror attacks.
You've done your part.
No, what she says is this. She says, because it's causing a rise in populism. It's causing a rise of people up against our plan, up against. So it's enough. Like it's kind of like you know you filled your cup enough. Now it's overflowing. It's overflowing. It's overflowing. These people. Oh my gosh! Right. So here's the Wicked Witch from the West herself. By the way, funny news. This woman got put on the wrong panel on Fox News. She's a Turning Point USA journalist. And she was talking about, she went ahead and talked about Hillary Clinton. And she had to publicly apologize. And Fox News had to publicly apologize because of what she said. And she said, the Clintons are like herpes. They just won't go away. And so I went to her page and I said, honey, I didn't know who you were before. I do now. And I'm following you now on Twitter. So, and everybody else was saying the same thing. I didn't know who you were. Don't apologize. And then Renita Brogger came back and said, don't apologize, honey. The Clintons are like herpes. They will not go away.
Oh, dang. Oh, my gosh.
So anyways, this is what she said in an interview. I think Europe needs to get a handle on migration because this is what lit the flame. Okay. I admire the very generous and compassionate approaches that were taken, particularly by leaders like Angela Merkel, my lesbian lover.
Who said it? What was her name? Do you know?
What?
The lady that said that
Who said what?
on the panel.
I can't remember her name. I'll find it. But I think it is fair to say Europe has done its part and must send a very clear message. We are not going to be able to continue to provide refuge and support because if we don't deal with the migration issue, it will continue to roil the body politic. Here's the thing. It's not that you can't come because, you know, all the problems.
No vacancy, no room at the inn.
So she's basically saying people are a little upset that that these migrants are taking so much money. They're pooping in the streets, but it's really, you know,
they're doing that in California too.
Pooping in the streets.
Those are just regular people.
Okay, you want to play the video?
I do want to play the video. All right, let's hit it.
Der UN-Migrationspakt. Viel Wunsch, wenig Wirklichkeit. Sehr verschachtelt geschrieben, schlecht zu lesen und noch schlechter zu verstehen. Bis auf eine Behauptung. Migration ist gut. Immer und ohne Einschränkung. Begründung? Fehlanzeige. Zweiflern wird gesagt, es sei ja nur eine Absichtserklärung, rechtlich nicht bindend. Stimmt zwar formal, faktisch, aber sehr wohl verpflichtend, politisch und moralisch. Und das kann durchaus rechtliche Wirkung erzeugen. Jeder kann sich auf den Pakt berufen und vor Gericht ziehen. Welcher Richter wird dann gegen die Vereinbarung urteilen? Sie kommt ja von den Vereinten Nationen. Außerdem wird im Pakt zwar betont, dass nationales Recht berücksichtigt wird, es wird aber auch gefordert, eben dieses Recht im Sinne der UN anzupassen. Und dann ist da noch die Sache mit der Information. Es soll ein offener, faktenbasierter Diskurs geführt werden. Ich frage mich, wie denn? Wenn das Ergebnis schon vorher feststeht, realistischer, humaner und konstruktiver soll sie sein, die Wahrnehmung. Medien sollen in die Steuerung von Migration eingebunden werden. Steht da, wortwörtlich. Und wer nicht mitspielt, dem soll die finanzielle Unterstützung entzogen werden. Auch das steht da. Eines steht da allerdings nicht. Wenn Migration so gut ist, warum braucht es dann eine gelenkte Information? Und warum überhaupt so einen Pakt?
And Angela Merkel. No, this wasn't something Adolf Hitler said many years ago. This is what the German Chancellor Angela Merkel told attendants at an event by the Konrad Adenauer Foundation in Berlin on Wednesday. She said, in an orderly fashion, of course, Merkel went on to say, she went even so far as to condemn those in her own Christian CDU party who think Germany should withdraw from the controversial UN migration pact. She says, nation states must today be prepared to give up their sovereignty.
This is ridiculous.
Do you know, and Angela and Macron saying we are creating a new Franco-German coalition. So this isn't the EU, 37 member states. Okay. This is the top guys, and who's going to lead that?
Right. Germany
and France. They're literally being dictators. This is not about democracy. This is not about what's best for everybody. Yep. This is about what they're saying that you're going to do, and the nations must be prepared to give up their sovereignty. Like, to you. You do know that you sound just like Hitler.
Hitler. That's exactly what she sounds like.
She's like, you're going to do it, or we're going to create this EU army, and we're going to make you do it. I mean, they're just literally the same. Literally, Macron is saying, oh my gosh, Hitler's rising. Look at the Nazis. Look at the socialists. No. These are the anti-Nazis. These are the anti-socialists.
Right.
These are the people who want to just wake up every day and be human beings, because you never have a whole body politic of people who want to take over the world. Right? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's never been that way. Even the Bolshevik Party was very, very small, and they ruled. They just ramrodded through through communism on people, through violence. What do you think an army is supposed to do? An army is violence. Army means weapons. Army means you do what we tell you to do at the point of a gun.
Right. So what would be the point of an EU army? Are they going to try to defend themselves against who?
The United States, China, and Russia.
Exactly.
But they're really just going to try to keep their own people in line.
And how do you expect to have good relations with the United States, China, and Russia if you're saying, you know what, we're putting an army together because of you?
She says, there were politicians who believed that they could decide when these agreements are no longer valid because they're representing the people. Yeah. Okay, politicians representing the people saying, you know what? The people think that we don't want to do this anymore. So we're going to pull out. But literally, that's the dictator. But the people are individuals who are living in a country. They are not a group who define themselves as the German people. She has previously accused critics of the UN Global Compact for Safe and Orderly Migration of not being patriotic, because that is not patriotism, because patriotism is when you include others in German interests and accept win-win situations. Her words echo recent comments by Emmanuel Macron, which says patriotism is the exact opposite of nationalism, blah, blah, blah. He said, Europe must be stronger and win more sovereignty.
Huh?
Basically, literally, let me translate you that. Let me translate that for you.
I like the
You
way
know
you
what?
said
Maybe
it
I
the first
shouldn't.
time.
Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should slow down. But I got a lot to do, a lot to say, a lot to bring to you. When he says Europe must be stronger and win more sovereignty, he's literally channeling the mindset of an Adolf Hitler, of any Alexander the Great, anybody who would go in to say,
Conquer.
You owe me more allegiance. You owe me more obedience.
Yeah.
Which is a really great segue into how the people are revolting against. Massive protests against Macron's fuel tax continue in France. This is Paris. They're called the Yellow Vests. And they're actually semi-normal. They're normal people. No, not semi-normal people. They're normal people. And I'm going to go ahead and have Michelle play this for you, because I want you to read. You have to read these subtitles in France to see that these are just kind of normal suburbanites. However, this is where socialism always leads. That's on YouTube. I played on YouTube. Okay. Socialism always leads to violence. These are middle-class, normal people that you would meet on the street. Okay? But they are rioting in the street because of money and things.
No. Go ahead.
What you're going to hear them say is prices for retired people have gone up, but they only have about 800 euros to live on a month. Well, they're talking about benefits. They're upset about a gasoline price, which led to Donald Trump, which I have to show you right now.
While you look that up, I am curious. I had seen a massive guillotine and a meme earlier today in France, and the meme had said that the French have these, massive symbols to remind the government of what happens when they, take over too much control. Yeah. I didn't have a chance to open that up and read it. I don't know where it came from, but my thought was, that's actually really scary. It's something that they're sounding like they're proud of.
Yeah.
But the French Revolution was not a beautiful thing. It was not the same thing as the United States Revolution.
We didn't take our leaders out of their homes and chop their heads off.
Right.
Okay. There is a way to be civilized,
right,
and go to war with another nation. But when they're your own leaders, it's a little bit, it's harder. But there are rules of war.
Right.
Right. You don't rape women and children, and you don't guillotine people's heads off. Right. You know what I mean? I mean, there's civilized ways to get something done.
A revolution. You can do... before you move on, I want to read a couple of comments here. Worthalook says, I remember when Obama personally phoned Macron before his election against Le Pen. I knew then that it was set up for him to win. Brett Vaza says, Michelle, the EU want control of the UK Trident submarines, effectively seizing control if the UK nuclear deterrent, which is effectively British-built submarines that use American nuclear missiles. Michael Thomas had said, and I lost the comment, but he was essentially reiterating the fact that the EU army really is just to implement the EU plan.
Right. Let me show you some of these pictures first before I tell you about Donald Trump's tweet. About supposedly the main line is riots about gas prices, but you're going to hear the people say it's more than that. But they are definitely rioting in the streets. They're coming against police and trying, and they call themselves the Yellow Vests. These are your average citizens from, young to old. This is not some sort of, this is not Antifa.
Right. Well, they're wearing big yellow vests. I mean, you know, they're not trying to hide.
The people against the police. I can't imagine this.
No, it's awful.
I can't imagine this in any sort of world. The situation at Champs Elysees in central Paris is getting out of control. People protesting. Whoa.
And see, this is what starts to bother me in any kind of protest, no matter who's right or who is wrong. When you have to start destroying public property or private property, this is a restaurant that's probably owned by someone. What? Why? It makes no sense. It does not prove your cause. It doesn't endear anyone to you. All right,
Yeah, there's about
this video.
Just a second. There was about 8,000 protesters, 3,000 police officers, and police officers had to use a water cannon against them. And they said it was about the fuel taxes, but it's about more than that. But
Well, that's because they have to cover the news and they have to twist it some way.
well, and it is about taxes. It's about money for them.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's also about an underlying anger that you have. And I was thinking about this while I was in the shower. The difference between socialism and what I would call American exceptionalism is that if my life isn't going right, if I don't have enough money or something like that, I'm not going to go to the government and ask for more and riot for more, because in socialism, you never have enough.
Right.
You always need more, and you're always on the cusp of your problems are the result of your government.
Mm-hmm.
And in America, my problems that result from my government are my government either not protecting my goods,
Right.
taking my goods from me, or strangling my ability to make trade.
Yeah.
Okay? So I could see a riot if the government comes in and confiscates my stuff. But I'm not going to riot to have more stuff.
Yeah.
The socialists are saying we don't have enough to live on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I'm going to say, stop taking my stuff. I will work hard. The American dream is I'm going to work hard.
Well, and so I'm reading these subtitles as you're going. And one of the things that it said on here was that the 30% fossil fuel hike has happened because Emmanuel Macron says that he's trying to reduce fossil fuel dependency. But that's like saying that the tax on cigarettes and alcohol are to make it so people stop drinking and smoking. No, they just want your money.
Right. So I can see...
and they realize that I'm sorry to interrupt you. What they do is they take something that they know you have to have, like an addict, whether it's smoking or drinking, or we all have to drive cars to get places, and then they put the tax on it.
Exactly.
Because you can't get around it.
Exactly.
You're not going to cut back smoking. You're not going to cut back drinking. And you're not going to cut back driving.
Right. I actually can see, being upset about a tax price. But seriously, Obama is quoted as saying that he wanted gas prices to go up to $5 a gallon to discourage people from driving. But America's economy is based on driving. If you want the economy to do well, you've got to drive to the store.
Right.
And if you're paying $5 a gallon, then your economy literally begins to crash. And that is what happened under Obama. Gas prices were up high, and the economy began to crumble.
Right.
And so, anyways, you get the idea, you get the picture.
Now, am I playing the
Go
video?
ahead and play the video of why these yellow jackets were.
Alors, Catherine et Stéphanie, bonjour. Qu'avez-vous à répondre aux personnes qui disent que ce mouvement des Gilets jaunes est un mouvement de fascistes, de personnes d'extrême droite et de beaufs?
C'est pas vrai. Parce que nous, on fait partie des gens de milieu classe moyenne et nous sommes là pour revendiquer pour nos APL, nos allocations, le gasoil, les taxes, tout pour les retraités, pour tout en fait.
On se bat pour nous, pour que nos enfants aient un avenir.
The interviewer asked them all, pretty much, they say you're far right. And the older people, they're like, we don't have any political affiliation. Now, there is nobody on the face of the planet, I believe, that thinks far right are extreme socialists. Right. These people are extreme socialists.
Yeah.
I mean,
so they literally can't be on the far right.
They are.
It's impossible.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Le français pour qu'on ait un avenir, parce qu'on est en train de crever en fait.
Et vous, à titre personnel, quelles difficultés rencontrez-vous au quotidien?
Comme tout le monde,
On survit.
C'est pas avec le peuple ce qui nous donne qu'on va faire un voyage à 40 000 euros.
Non, nous on n'est pas Madame Macron, on peut pas se permettre.
Voilà. Je suis en colère pour toutes les augmentations en général, toucher aux retraités, toucher au carburant, toucher à tout, en colère pour tout.
C'est le mot de tout le monde, hein. C'est le mot de tout le monde, hein.
J'ai un sentiment de ras-le-bol.
Ouais.
Ce n'est pas simplement à cause du carburant, c'est un ensemble, toutes les augmentations pour les retraités. On touche une petite retraite de 800 €. Je voudrais bien voir si Monsieur Macron pourrait vivre avec 800 € par mois.
Qui nous donne sa paye, on lui donne la note. Nous, on veut bien, nous, on fait pas de tralala.
Et mesdames, messieurs, est-ce que quelle est votre réaction quand vous entendez des personnalités dire que ce mouvement des Gilets jaunes est un mouvement de fascistes et de personnes d'extrême droite?
N'importe quoi.
Pas du tout, c'est un mouvement apolitique. Il n'y a aucune politique là-dedans. C'est un ras-le-bol de toute la société.
Tout le monde est concerné, hein, que ce soit les petits, les grands, les moyens, tout le monde est concerné.
Moi je dis, Macron là il s'amuse, là il veut jouer les grands là. Mais là il a tout faux avec le peuple. Je peux vous le dire.
On va venir nos petits-enfants surtout. On pense à eux aussi, hein, parce que là, ça va trop loin, quoi. Alors, on n'a déjà plus grand-chose, nous, mais alors eux, qu'est-ce qu'ils vont avoir? Rien du tout. Et ils n'auront même pas de travail, alors en plus, voilà.
On est obligé de... La paye qu'on gagne, c'est pour mettre le gasoil. C'est normal, ça, hein? On va travailler pour payer le gasoil. Hein? On n'arrive même plus à sortir, on n'arrive plus à faire des loisirs. Faut arrêter, hein. Macron il s'amuse avec qui là? Il s'amuse avec le peuple là. Bah, là il a tout faux là. Et il a perdu avec nous.
Ça fait rien, il mange bien lui.
Ouais. J'ai perdu ma femme il y a 11 ans et je touchais 430 et on m'a retiré 50 € sur ma reversion. Et maintenant je touche 380 €. Et j'ai resté à un moment à la SS. Il n'y avait pas de boulot à ce moment-là. Et j'avais 500 plus ma reversion, j'avais 880 € par mois pour vivre et puis payer ma voiture pour chercher du travail.
Fabrice, je suis là parce que mon grand-père a fait 68, on avait du pouvoir et tout ça, et depuis que les présidents passent, on nous retire toujours plus, et un jour ou un autre, on finira tous dans la rue. Donc il nous faut du pouvoir d'achat, il nous faut de l'argent.
Ils disent que c'est juste un petit mouvement, mais qui pourrait très bien encore grossir. Parce que là, il faut qu'il arrête de surtaxer les gens. Le pouvoir d'achat, on ne peut pas l'avoir, le pouvoir d'achat. Parce qu'on est trop taxé. Il parle des véhicules électriques. Les véhicules électriques, qui se paye des véhicules électriques? C'est ceux qui ont au moins 3 000 € par mois. Un smicard de 1 200 € quand il a payé ses charges, ben, il n'a plus rien. Alors ça, il faut qu'il arrive à le comprendre. C'est tout.
Voilà, il faut avoir l'argent nécessaire. Moi, comme j'ai marqué sur ma banderole, vous pouvez filmer, bientôt le 2e mai 68. S'ils continuent à taxer les gens, ben, les gens vont en avoir marre et il faut que toute la France se manifeste.
Alors c'est bien de venir à Charleville faire le beau, faire sa petite politique, mais il faut qu'il apprenne à vivre avec 1 200 € par mois, puis il verra ce que c'est. Parce que tant qu'il ne vit pas du concret comme nous on le vit, il ne saura pas comment ça se passe. Voilà. Un banquier reste un banquier. Hein.
Moi je vois mon père, il touchait 1 100 € par mois. J'ai vécu moi à manger les patates, comme mon père travaillait pour moi, ma mère, ma soeur. On a vécu la pauvreté à manger des patates tous les jours. Ça, Macron, il ne connaît pas.
On paye les gens pour qu'ils se taisent. C'est un peu ce qui se passe aujourd'hui. On a beaucoup de gens qui sont dans une classe tout en bas, mais on leur donne le minimum pour vivre, comme ça ils se taisent. Il ne se passe rien. Et le jour où on enlèvera le minimum qu'ils ont, ben là ça fera 1 mai 68, après c'est fini. On va en arriver là. Hein. On est parti pour. Merci.
Wow. So I wanted to give you an idea of why these people were in the streets. It is taxes. It is when you have a socialist government, when you rely so much on the government, And when they do tax you out into oblivion, where you don't have that extra income to take a trip, to relax, to invest in your own future, to invest in a farm, to buy animals, like when you're in a socialist country, they take your ability to even make investments into yourself away from you, and they say, well, don't worry, we'll take care of you because we'll put you in the doctor, we'll give you medical assistance, or if you need food assistance, we'll give you food assistance. It's like, no, if you give me my money back, let me invest it, then I'll make sure I have food assistance, I'll make sure I have medical care. That's the American idealism. And you have half of Americans who are still being taxed out of oblivion, and you have millennials in America coming out of colleges with a huge amount of debt because they were sold this bill of goods, and they are pushing the socialist type. Well, I want the government to pay for this, but it's never good enough because, number one, in a socialist environment, you're never going to have enough. And what they do is they use the promises to get you to vote for them and get you in power, and then they never give you enough to live off of.
Right.
They never give you enough to get up out of it.
That's how we get
out
dictatorships.
of poverty. Right.
You know, Chris Holman says France and the UK are examples of governments that ignore the will of their own people.
So Donald Trump had said the large and violent French protests don't take into account how badly the United States have been treated on trade by the European Union or unfair and unreasonable payments for our great military protection. But of these topics, both these topics must be remedied soon. And he says, I'm not even kidding you, this was trending on Twitter today. President T.
Like
he
Mr.
called
T?
himself President T. He says, so great that oil prices are falling. Thank you, President T. Add that, which is like a big tax cut, to our other good economic news. Inflation down. Are you listening, Fed? The Fed was trying to raise interest rates, and then it kind of causes the market to be unstable. We're at I'm not going to go into a market analysis right now. I need to have Lynette on again, because with interest rates at zero, you don't actually know bonds are earning interest.
Exactly.
It's not, your economy isn't growing if interest rates are at zero.
Right.
But anyways, that's another thing. I want to give you a few other kind of
pity to fool that doesn't listen to President T.
Macron says that the Franco-German couple will stop the world descending into chaos, and I'm just leaving it at that. French court sentences Sri Lankan migrant for pouring superglue on his wife's nether regions. A court in the heavenly, and every once in a while, see, I could just spend the entire show on migrant or from the people who are from the religion that shall not be named, the violence that they do to children and women and other people. I don't, but every once in a while I highlight one. Okay. I could go over rapes, I could go over acids, I could go over all kinds of things.
Yeah.
So this is one in France. I wanted to bring into that not all cultures are the same.
Okay.
Okay, this is not a one-off.
Right.
This is, in America, we have all kinds of things happening. It's not a cultural thing.
Yeah.
It's not learned. It's like evil. It's just
Right.
evil, okay? But then there are cultures who do crazy things. Like, cannibals. It's a cultural thing, not necessarily, it's kind of a one-off if somebody eats somebody in America. It's not a cultural thing here, right?
Right.
But this is like randomly attacking people with acid and in like really inhumane ways. We have an American cultural thing. It's called beat your wife. That's a kind of American cultural thing, I could say, because a lot of men do abuse women, and that is kind of an American thing. But these are just different. Like, and I'm not saying that it is. I'm saying, and it's not an American thing, but we do have battered women syndrome. We do have women who are abused in America,
yeah, absolutely.
But they're usually beaten with hands or even shot. I mean, like, these are things that we can discuss. We discuss how evil and how bad it is, and men need to love their wives, and things like that. However, when I see these cultures coming in, there is definitely a lesser of two evils, because most men aren't going. You get in a fit of rage, and you shake somebody or something like that. But most people don't think, "Hey, I'm going to throw acid on somebody," or the depravity of your mind to use super glue. It comes from a different kind of culture. And this is from somebody from Sri Lanka. And it was a migrant who was arrested a short time later and appeared in court. He says, "I loved her a lot, but I thought she betrayed me." The victim also testified saying, "I never thought he was going to hit me. He loved me, took good care of my son. It's because of me that he will be punished." In addition to the 2-year sentence, the man has been given in order to not make contact with his wife for 3 years.
So, and that right there goes to show the mindset when she said, it's because of me that he will be punished.
This is just the latest brutal assault to involve somebody from Sri Lanka in the Paris area this year. In March, Sri Lankan migrants attacked another Sri Lankan man in a restaurant over what was like rival gangs. And then women in the heavily migrant-populated north in Paris claim to be constantly under threat of sexual assault and violence. So I wanted to kind of bring that to your
So she must have gone to hospital. I can say it. It's our UK show. I can say it that way.
Yeah.
And then it was discovered what happened. And so, because she obviously wasn't wanting to prosecute or make a stink of at it.
Right. So this is a big story here. We're gonna move on to. So one of the I was on online today and I was bringing the stories together and I was like, oh my gosh, you've got to be kidding me. Now we've talked a lot about false flag attacks in Syria. This one is supposedly, again, so I'm not saying this is a false flag, but there again, I will bring it to you. A massive Al-Qaeda gas attack on pro-government. Remember, Assad is the one who was accused of gas attacks before. This is against pro-government Aleppo. It supposedly left 100 hospitalized. Over 100 civilians were hospitalized, including dozens, women and children. After anti-Assad militants unleashed a wave of mortars filled with poison gas on government-controlled Aleppo Saturday evening. Syrian state-run SANA published multiple photos and a video of victims in the city's hospitals being treated for what's reported to be chlorine gas exposure. Though it's not the first time that the rebels seeking to topple the Assad government have conducted a chemical attack on pro-government areas, it is the first time that mainstream American outlets like CNN and Rodgers have featured coverage of such events. Crucially, pro-rebel media has now confirmed the poison gas attack. Especially the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, which Western media has long relied upon as a go-to source of anti-Assad opposition reporting. In Aleppo City, which the government controls, the shells had spread a strong stench and caused breathing problems. In total, official Syrian government sources reported 107 people were injured. A sizable proportion of them are children. They usually are. After Al-Qaeda terrorists linked to the Hayat whatever, they Al-Qaeda terrorists. Initially, the death toll was 12. So we'll see. Western-backed rebels have targeted residential areas in Aleppo with chlorine gas, and they have lots of gas masks always available for these attacks. Always ready. Children are always hooked up to them. Always a crying child hooked up to them. I don't know.
And it's really unfortunate. Because of the false flags that we've had, we won't know. There's no way to come right out and say, oh my gosh, it's so horrible, because you don't know.
Yeah, so here's a video they released. Lots of filming. You know I'm going to say it, right?
You never let me say the things that I want to say. I think everybody here already knows what you're thinking. But if I was Leah, I would say, you can't say that.
No. Say it. Here's the thing. The fires in California, they killed people. Our friends and family have their part.
I wasn't saying it was a false flag.
I know, awful. But I really wanted to focus on that because that was a lot of devastation. It was really scary. This is not that. If it was blown up things and buildings, still, when there is a tragedy, I want to hit tragedy first.
Yes.
I'm not seeing tragedy here. Okay? On a level of 1 to 10, I don't...
But what about the 107 people that died?
No, it was supposedly 12 people. 107 people were injured.
Oh, okay.
With some breathing problems.
Okay.
Breathing problems.
Okay.
Okay, that woman coming in, hurry. And when I see, here's the thing, there's tells. Everyone's standing around, and one woman's being rushed in. And there's cameras everywhere. Okay, and there's all these gas masks everywhere, and the children just sitting there like this. Okay, you know what I mean? And some people looking like they're acting. So I'm going to tell you my take, because we've seen it on the one side. I think that Assad's like, fine, you want to fight fire with fire? We're going to fight false chemical attack. They know, they're on the ground. They know when it's fake. Yeah. They know that it has been faked. Right. They know that Bana Alabad is set up. Okay, they're like, you know what we need to do? We're going to stage our own. And we'll just fight back and forth with staged attacks back and forth. So then you have to feel sorry for us. Hey, you know what?
That's actually not a bad idea.
We're going to fight staged attack with
fake war. Then no one actually gets injured.
There we go.
This is ingenious. This will solve the entire world's problems. We can see who can do the best fake war to convince people. Like the best fake injuries. Like fake blood. We used to work in a Christian haunted house where they showed the top, 10 causes of teenage death. We know how to make fake blood really well out of corn syrup and food coloring.
Watch CNN call us out for possibly saying that this is a fake
تتابعون معنا حالة اختناق تصل تباعا إلى مشفى الجامعة.
It's convenient when it's chlorine, because as the gas dissipates, if you touch the people, it's no big deal. Right.
إذا ارتفاع عدد الحالات إلى 10 تماما. 10 حالات وصلت إلى مشفى الجامعة. طبعا بعد ما انهيت البث المباشر معكم فورا صار في حالات جديدة اضطريت لحتى اطلع معكم بهذا البث المباشر فورا.
A lot of people there, right? A lot of people in this hospital taking care of people. I've never seen a hospital so packed.
Did you eat a grapefruit?
No, I didn't.
You smell like grapefruit.
There's a lot of people in this hospital taking care of people. A lot of healthy people walking around.
Yeah.
These are just things that don't make sense to me. Yeah. There's a lot of people just wandering around, a lot of people filming. I mean, like,
people filming on their phones.
It's like the whole town.
Hang on, pause right there. Pause. Just pause. Right. Okay. I'm gonna tell you guys something. Just from human nature. Raise your hand if you agree with me on this. I'm sure there's emojis for that in the chat. If there was a real crisis like this, and you were there, would you be A, on your phone recording it, B, on your phone maybe frantically calling a family member or friend, C, asking how you can be of service and help, D, coordinating things, trying to help organize? I have seen humanity come together in crisis situations. This isn't it. Unless everybody in Syria is just like hardwired that way.
So then people are just randomly putting on masks now. Why are you putting on masks now?
Because, and here's another thing, guys. When these things initially happen, you said it's a good thing it's chlorine because the gas dissipates. You don't know who diagnoses it right off the bat. Oh, it's chlorine, it's safe, we're fine. You don't know what's causing it. You don't know why these people are coming in like this. You should be in a hazmat suit. They don't come in with a sign that says this was chlorine.
And if all these victims of this attack are coming in, why are there so many people around them? Why are they touching them?
Right.
Why are they just like packed like sardines in this? And all these victims
running
everywhere.
The other way.
So anyways,
I have to tell you.
Yeah.
Tim Smith says, just type in fake CNN video on the street and you can see where they were staging people to protest the actors. Just type in on YouTube and you will see it happens more often than not. We've actually showcased that on our channel quite a few times.
All right. So we aren't able to do our entire full show, but I still have some more I want to bring to you and talk to you about George Batten. And Farage and Tommy. Now, Tommy wanted to join UKIP, and in the beginning, George Batten, who's the head of UKIP right now, was excited, and people were kind of happy. But then the BBC sticks their nose into everybody else's business. They don't like UKIP, but they really don't like Tommy. So they had to say, you know, he's going to damage your reputation if you let him join.
And
because
then Nigel,
you're not allowed to allow anybody who was an ex-member. This is what I don't understand. Like, everything's about tolerance in the UK except for
it's very interesting.
if you're an ex-member of the EDL,
right?
Then somehow you're a para and you're untouchable.
Yeah,
you know, so you can't even almost get a job.
It's worse than being, I think, incarcerated.
So if maybe you heard about Islamic terrorism and you got a little extreme in your perceptions of people, suddenly if somebody sits down and sits you down and you know shows you, can you say no ex-communists? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you've had, I mean, Jeremy Corbyn is a communist, pretty much, right?
But I don't know if he ever officially was.
In his mind.
I know, but the EDL was an official thing.
Well, you're right. Okay. So Tommy left the EDL, which he founded because people kind of took over and he got a little angry and violent and hateful. You know, I understand. Because that's the way you solve problems. If you see a problem, you don't have Jesus. You don't have the love of God.
Right.
Right.
But the fact that he left should speak to itself.
Right. So instead, he thought it'd be a great way to bring Tommy in without making him part of the party, and that he would become a consultant to UKIP on the grooming gangs, because he said Tommy's really good at that.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the other thing? I think it might even be in here in the video. Here, let's let him tell you.
Pleased to say Gerard Batten joins us here in Westminster, and let me ask you then to respond to what Nigel Farage has said, and that is that you're taking the party in what he calls a shameful direction and that they should get rid of you.
Well, I'm surprised that Nigel's got such an interest in what UKIP's doing, seeing as he walked away 2 years ago and hasn't displayed any interest in it whatsoever since. And he recently said that he was going to give 100% of his effort to Leave Means Leave, which means 0% to UKIP. So
I do want to point out that 2016 was an amazing year.
Yeah.
And everybody rode the high level. You can still appreciate people like a Nigel Farage and support him when you believe he's going in the right direction. Right. And it is a disappointing when our heroes,
that's a good word,
don't necessarily align with what we think is correct.
Right.
But we got to be bigger people than that. Okay, Raheem Kasim is dear friends with Tommy and Nigel. And Nigel pretty much despises Tommy Robinson. And George Batten does not like Donald Trump. But Nigel Farage loves Donald Trump.
Right.
Okay, so I can't go by, well, this person likes this person. Or this isn't a clique.
Well, and that's what I was talking about earlier, kind of like with Australia. It doesn't matter. Not everybody is going to be perfect on all points. And it's the same thing with religion and the different denominations that we have in Christianity. You have to be able to come together on the points that you can agree on.
And I see fantastic leadership within the Make America Great Again leadership amongst the people that aren't actually in office, like a Raheem Kasim or Mike Cernovich, or even like Alex Jones, who gets lionized by so many people, but he still supports people who say the right thing, even if they hate him.
Right.
Okay, and that shows you somebody
of character.
And that's that's kind of who we've tried to see. I'm disappointed that Nigel said this about Tommy. I'm disappointed that Gerard Batten, if I had to pick, I'm picking Nigel every day over Gerard Batten. But I appreciated that he is supporting Tommy Robinson, because I love Tommy Robinson. He's a real deal.
Yeah.
He's a good bloke. Okay,
so Jim West from the UK says Batten seemed okay at the start, but he'll only ever appeal to the fringes. Nigel got UKIP to appeal across the board, and that's true. But here's the thing: UKIP will never be able to stay united after Brexit, because it has to take, because the staunch stances of politics are naturally going to cause UKIP they're going to have to take on one or the other. They can't be Tory and Labour. And there were those that joined UKIP from both sides. And unfortunately, because politics is beyond Brexit, UKIP has to either choose one or the other. And so I think we kind of see where UKIP is going.
I've had the job of saving the party from disappearing into oblivion, which I've done. I've done a good job of that. We've now got membership rising, we've got money rising, we're comfortably in the black, we've got donors giving us money, and we're up in the polls, we're up to 8%. So I actually think I'm making the right decisions in what I'm doing.
He says you should be focusing on the broad issue of immigration.
I've been focusing on Brexit, which is why we're going to organise this great big Brexit betrayal, Brexit means exit march on the 9th of May. We are going to try and get tens and tens of thousands of people out to that. And my objective there is to encourage those people to come and join UKIP, because the only thing that makes any difference in this whole debate is how many votes can you take away from the Tories and Labour at the next general election. That's the only thing they care about. And that's my goal. That's what I'm doing. And I'm not doing bad at the moment.
Why then, in the meantime, are you appointing Tommy Robinson as an unpaid advisor?
Well, he's merely a personal advisor on two particular issues. I want him to advise me on the rape gang phenomena, which he knows a great deal about, and conditions in prisons and prison reform, which he also unfortunately has first-hand knowledge of. So I had two important areas. I have advisors on all kinds of subjects and policy spokesmen. He doesn't need to be a member of the party to do that, but he's going to help me in that so that we can develop policy going forward.
And here's the deal. When they keep saying he hired, okay? That's the line they're running with. Mm-hmm. You know, Gerard Batten has hired, you know, UKIP has hired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tommy Robinson. He didn't hire him. He's not even being paid. But he just talked about a march that they want to put together for the 9th of May. They want tens of thousands of people to come. I'm going to tell you something right now. Without Tommy Robinson, they'll never do it.
Yeah. I think a lot of people support Tommy Robinson.
And they could increase their numbers tenfold by adding Tommy Robinson.
Stop. Okay, fine. I'll let you put ads. Okay. And this is what Michelle was talking about. Tommy Robinson and UKIP are teaming up for a massive pro-Brexit march.
Oh, the 9th of December. He said May, but I guess it's December. That would make more sense.
I'm going to turn that off. Okay. So we can see this. Bring on the ads. Tommy slammed Theresa May's Brexit sellout as the biggest betrayal of a Democratic vote ever, and originally planned a march for December 1st, but the date was now been changed from
December 9th. So it is, okay. You heard him say May, didn't you?
I don't know.
He did. I think he did a Theresa May like you did earlier.
Okay. Activist Danny Tomo also revealed that UKIP have endorsed the event, and Gerard Batten will be attending along with UKIP's Lord Pearson, who sits in the House of Lords, and described the event as the beginning of a political revolution in this country.
Wow.
He said, "We have a huge amount of speakers. This will not be a quiet march. We're going to make some serious noise about some serious stuff." He slammed the sellout Tories and attacked left-wing Labour, adding the Labour Party is in turmoil, and said the Tories are dead in the water. Theresa May has sold out Europe in that law.
So Jim West says, if the slightest thing goes wrong at the march with Tommy there, it will be used against Brexit. I could see that happening. So that is something to be cautious about.
Is that Parliament votes it down.
This is Nigel I wanted to play on.
March 29th, without a deal, a negotiated deal. We negotiate on border problems and issues like that, but we leave without a deal. And this is all a great shame, because we could have gone for a simple free trade arrangement. For 20 years here, people have told me they'd be prepared to do it.
So I wanted to give you Nigel's clip there. All right, so across Europe, there are other things happening in other countries, and I kind of want to go over a few things. The AfD leader savages Merkel. She says women and girls are now afraid to walk the streets. She said on Wednesday, Alice Weidel, who I love, she says, let me see if I can get the clip.
Well, it already started in Sweden, where girls are afraid to walk in the streets, and now it's gone to Germany, and it's just spreading. Anywhere where the migrants are, women have to be afraid to go out by themselves.
Yeah, I wish there was a video to go with this, but she says, every year we spend money on the fight against the right, but women and girls no longer even dare to walk the streets alone for fear of attacks by so-called seekers of protection. Merkel seemed unfazed, however, defending immigration. We have to solve migration internationally. No country can do it alone, she told Weidel.
Yeah, she also doesn't have any maternal instincts. She doesn't have any kind of protect women instincts.
The Austrian chancellor blames Muslim migration for the rising anti-Semitism in Europe.
You should only let as many people immigrate in a country as many you are able to integrate. So I think that a not registered and not organized flow of immigrants can always be a problem for a country, and especially a strong flow of immigrants coming from Muslim countries can cause troubles like a different understanding about Israel or anti-Semitic ideas which we would not like to have in our societies.
And he's going to speak. I thought it was pretty bold of him to say that, and if he was in Germany, I think that he probably would be taken off of Twitter.
Probably.
And in Sweden,
you're going back to
there's
Sweden.
So many robberies. And guys, Sweden was kind of an oasis before migration. Like, it didn't have high crime. The reason rapes went up is, like, there were no rapes. That's why, like, rapes went up. Like, you didn't have to be afraid. Now they have to be afraid, especially in these migrant-dominated areas.
Yeah.
They didn't have the crime that we have in the inner cities, and now that they do. So there's this interesting, like, translucent coloring, translucent marker that they're encouraging people at the store to put on their clothes and their phones and stuff so that you can find your stuff, because so many things are being robbed. It's kind of an interesting thing to prevent crime. It's called a DNA marker. Like, and winter jackets, I guess, are really expensive in Sweden, and so people are trying to steal them.
Yeah.
And so that is because of immigration. All right. In Germany, North African migrants in Germany are extremely criminal, as more than 50% are suspected of crimes. It's kind of crazy. According to this video report of news outlet Epoch Times, Libyans and Tanzanians are extremely criminal in the German state of Saxony. We'll go ahead and
In Sachsen werden von knapp 2000 gemeldeten Libyern.
In Saxony, of the 2,000 registered Libyans, 1,100 are listed as suspects.
Are you serious?
Yeah, try to go ahead and read.
That's over 50%.
In the police crime statistics reports of the Free Press, of the 773 registered Tanzanians,
Berichtet die Freie Presse. Bei 773 gemeldeten Tunesien im Freistaat.
in the Free Federal State of Saxony, there are even 881 registered.
This means the criminals from other German federal states are active in Saxony.
Yeah.
The AFD leader of parliamentary group Saxony explains the old establishment party's rant that asylum seekers are not significantly more criminal than Germans, and that the AFD spreads fake news and hate speech. Now the police crime statistics provide us with further proof that asylum seekers in Saxony are even extremely criminal. Every other Libyan and every Tanzanian are criminal suspects in Saxony.
They literally said, I don't know if you caught that, there are 773 Tanzanians, but they've had 881 Tanzanians who are criminals. So they're saying people who aren't living in Saxony are coming to be criminals there. So every single one in Saxony is a criminal. Every single one.
In addition, 276 people from both ethnic groups are considered as multiple intensive offenders. This means they have committed 5 offenses within just 1 year. Urban continues. The exorbitantly high crime rate shows the complete failure of the CDU asylum policy. There is no control over who enters Germany. This means our country is open to criminals and terrorists. That is why the AFD has been calling for controls at the German external borders since 2013.
What do you guys think of that?
Wow.
Like, I'm glad somebody finally said it, but that's what other people are saying, and that's what they're called hate speech for just calling out the truth. Slovakia will not support the UN Migration Pact.
Good for them.
Yeah, and over here, Iran's Rouhani demands Muslims unite to fight U.S. and cancerous tumor Israel. Israel is a cancerous tumor established by Western countries to advance their interests in the Middle East, Iran's President Hassan Rouhani said Saturday, before calling on Muslim nations to unite and fight the U.S. Addressing an Islamic Unity Conference in Tehran, Rouhani lamented, one of the negative results of the World War II was the formation of a cancerous tumor in the region. He then went on to scold the U.S. and urge Muslim nations to unite and band together in reality and practice. There is no way to remain united, and you will win over the Zionists and Americans if you remain united. And then Benjamin Netanyahu responded saying Rouhani's slander, which calls for the destruction of Israel, proves yet again why the nations of the world need to join in the sanctions against the Iranian terrorist regime, which threatens them.
You could read that a little bit better.
Well, and here's the thing. The Iranian people aren't as crazy as its leaders.
That's so true. We've seen that consistently. And we've met them.
But the Saudi Arabian people are crazier than their leaders.
Yeah.
So, like, the Wahhabi is... Oh, here's the thing. The Saudi Arabian king was trying to work with Donald Trump. Like, they're not actively saying death to America at the upper levels.
Right.
Okay? Now, the Wahhabi terrorists are. Okay?
Right.
And that's what I'm saying, like the religious leaders. So, the prince is trying to modernize, trying to give women, like, the right to drive and all these amazing things, right? And so when Donald Trump says we have better relations with Saudi Arabia than we do with Iran, he's talking about their leadership. And so I believe that Saudi Arabia has more bite, has more power, has more clout than Iran. I feel like Iran is another kind of North Korea. Like, they're not real powerful. They're not really wealthy. They know they can't take on the world.
Yeah.
So they just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. And they're like, I hate Israel. I hate Israel. I hate Israel. They're cancer. They're cancer. Just prodding and prodding and prodding. And what happened is Saddam Hussein, Muslim country, was holding, like, Iran in check. And then they topple Saddam Hussein, and Iran kind of rises to power. But Iran is not the #1 exporter of terrorism. Not by a long shot, because we've seen that 9/11, most of the hijackers were Saudi Arabian. The Wahhabi terrorism is taught in the UK. It's taught all over the world. Saudi Arabia is the biggest exporter of terrorism. Now, all Islamically based countries have terrorists that they export.
Right.
But when we hear about suicide bombers, I very rarely hear of them being Iranian. Like, the Iranian people, no offense, seem to be way more intelligent and able to distinguish their
well, let me ask you this. Do you think it's because it may have something to do with the fact that Iran has only been I want to call it theocracy, but
1979 they became
a Muslim statehood.
Exactly.
Of sorts. Islamic State where religion rules
I don't know.
Government.
Because
and the other countries, I think, maybe have already been in that for longer.
Well, Pakistan is a relatively new country, a little offshoot there of India. And Pakistan is filled with, like, all, like, the horribly violent, hateful people who want Asa Bibi dead and hanged. And so it is, like, this weird cultural mindset. Like, I want to say the Iranian people are more educated and they're more enlightened. The Pakistani people aren't. I'm just looking at what I'm seeing by video, which is, I haven't been there. I see the White Wednesdays. I see these are normal people. I see that the women are taking off their hijabs
and their husbands
the men are like, way to go, honey. And but there are people and they're fighting, like they're like elevated. But when I see the Pakistan, the entire country going to the streets, teaching their children, you know, to hang Asa Bibi because she's a Christian.
Right.
You know what I mean? If I'm going to go to an Islamic country, I have an Iranian friend who says it's not that bad. It's bad.
Right.
Like, I want to talk about it, but it's not like we're talking about on levels. It's way more dangerous to be a woman in Saudi Arabia than it is in Iran.
Yeah, I agree.
So we have to talk about lesser of two evils. So when I hear this guy, he's all talk. If Saudi Arabia starts saying it, I'm going to take it a little more seriously because 9/11. It happened.
Right.
They came and they our country has been paralyzed.
Yeah.
You know, by that. So I wanted to put that.
All right. I don't know how much news you have left. I probably
kind of
need to get going.
That's kind of it as far as news goes. Michelle said we could only go till 2:30. We went to 3 because we started late, but an hour and a half is a really good show for Sundays.
And so Horatio summed up what I was trying to say. Iran used to be westernized, whereas Pakistan never has been. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And so when you see these different cultures, there are varying cultures, and not all cultures are equal. So when you say multiculturalism is strength, like, I want to go to the extreme and say, so when you add cannibals into your culture, is that strengthening your culture? You know what I mean? That's
you
not
always
exactly
go to the cannibals.
Well, I'm trying to really drive home a point.
Right.
That when you
drove it.
When you, not all cultures are the same. Actually, I believe that I love Mexicans. I love Mexican culture. Okay? I love that I actually like having Mexicans here, but what I don't want, or South Americans, but I don't want people coming here illegally, because it opens up our borders to horrible criminals, to trafficking.
It's a no-brainer.
To human
really.
trafficking.
It really is a no-brainer.
To bringing in the heroin.
We already have a system set up to allow immigrants from South America.
Right.
And that system works really well. We have a system set up to allow immigrants from all over the world. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times it's supposed to take preference to refugees that are minorities in their religious status that are being persecuted. That's what we're supposed to do. And so that system is already in place, and it is effective, and it works well. When you tear down that system and you open the floodgates, that's when everything starts to fall apart.
I think
anybody that can't see that,
Americans love different cultures. We always have. That's the reason PBS is so successful and why Rick Steves is so successful. Because when you have different cultures, it's fun to visit.
Yeah.
It's fun to...
But does anybody watch Rick Steves anymore? I mean, how is he coping with all of this? I mean, I can't even imagine.
But this is the kind of thing, and I'm going to end with this. This is the kind of thing that doesn't bring... There are negative aspects to other cultures.
Yeah.
Okay? And when you go to, let's say, like when we went to Russia in the 90s and you were supposed to go into a church and you had to wear a skirt and pants, you respected their culture. That is not a crazy thing to ask, right? But
that was just going into the churches.
Yeah, exactly. UK has decided to not go after the Somalian community and target them for female genital mutilation. And the reports of female genital mutilation have gone down by 95%. 95%. Which means that the girls are not being directed to medical attention. To medical, and the cases are not being addressed, and no one's ever been prosecuted. And in America, a Somali doctor, charges were dropped against her. And while we don't have time to go into this, it's really important because while the issue of FGM, a practice common in some, not all, Muslim majority and African countries, has only been recently thrust into the American sphere, there has been a debate over the practice in the UK for decades. And we told you how a U.S. district judge ruled on Tuesday that an anti-FGM law was unconstitutional. And Congress had no authority to enact a law that criminalizes the practice, allegedly performed to dull the sexual urges of women. Dismissing this case, prosecutors alleged that this woman in Detroit, who conducted female genital mutilation on more than 100 girls in Detroit over a span of 12 years, with a conspiracy involving 7 people. The U.S. district said, as despicable as it is, Congress overstepped its bounds by banning the abuse. This may end the Detroit trial, as the defendants cannot be charged in Detroit because the state's anti-FGM law was passed after the group had been arrested. 4 of the accused still face federal conspiracy and obstruction charges that could see them behind
Pause right
bars.
there. Just pause right there.
Go ahead.
Hang on a second. What they're saying is the act that was enacted, the law that was enacted that said
in Detroit,
FGM is illegal
by Congress.
Right. Okay. What they're saying is, we can't punish these people because the law was enacted after they were arrested.
No, that's not what they're saying.
That's what they just said.
No. There was Congress.
Yes.
But then there was Detroit has a state anti... well, I don't know if they're talking about the state's Congress or... I thought it was nationwide. That is the confusion here.
Okay, between Congress and what's happening in Detroit.
We have a federal anti-FGM.
Well, it just says they cannot be charged in Detroit because the state's anti-FGM law was passed after the group had been arrested. I wanted to hit on that point.
But they're saying, as despicable as FGM, Congress overstepped its ban by banning the abuse.
Okay, forget that part.
Okay.
Don't forget it. Just that's not what I wanted to address. What I wanted to address was the fact that, listen, it shouldn't take a law in Detroit to say that what happened to those girls was wrong. Right. You don't need it to be specific and already on the books. There doesn't have to be a law on the books to tell you that beating your wife is wrong. The law could come 5 years later.
What's interesting is
the guy still gets punished, whatever.
If anybody, goes after a child's, private parts, it's child abuse. It's sexual molestation, which is what I'm calling this, because FGM, and you guys might not know this, is done on prepubescent, like 12 and 13-year-old girls. And this with the specific goal of limiting and dulling their ability to experience any sort of sexual pleasure. This is where the difference between male circumcision done on babies is not
for hygienic purposes.
We have to call it. It's not circumcision of females.
It is not.
There's nothing on females to circumcise.
Exactly.
To take off. It's an excise skin.
Right.
For males. And we've done.
I'm going to be honest. If it was just that, and it happened to infant girls, if it really was the exact same thing as if it was just female circumcision and it happened to babies,
and there had to be an intense medical reasoning that would be helpful to a child later on. Okay?
Not just the child, but the child's future sexual partners and whatnot.
So a circumcision on males is done on babies, does not reduce sexual pleasure. I have read plenty of articles on this, and I have read men who have been circumcised afterwards. They say it actually sometimes makes things better. I don't like to talk about this stuff, but you have to. Okay, because a lot of men are saying, they took this away from me. Right. And actually men who have had it done have said, actually, it makes it easier, less infections, less urinary tract infections, and you're less likely to pass on diseases. I'm not saying that children should be circumcised. No. That's a different thing, but you can't compare it. So we have to throw out, please, do not compare this to male.
And every time we go to talk about FGM on this channel, I get the circumcision comments. I'm just going to ignore them because it is not the same. We can have a circumcision debate and we can have that conversation, and you guys can have that conversation. Right. But it is absolutely not the same. Now, our dear friend Stacy had sent me a message, and she says, Michelle, I'm afraid that because of circumcision, this is going to be able to be legalized. It boils down to this. If you're going to take a 12-year-old girl, sit her on the table, and hack at her genitals so she has reduced sexual pleasure, and you want to somehow compare that to circumcision, I can't even have a conversation with you.
Right.
I just cannot. Right. It is not the same thing. Honestly, if you want to tell me you don't like circumcision and it's wrong, that's fine. Right. But it has nothing to do with this conversation.
Here is the best, not perfect, equivalency between male circumcision and what people do to women. They do something to girls. They pierce babies' ears.
Yeah.
They do. They pierce babies' ears. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, it has no medical, but you're legally allowed to pierce a baby's ears, and a lot of people do it because they think that they won't remember the pain later on in life.
Yeah.
But you always have a hole in your ear. Mm-hmm. Your parents put a hole in your ear.
Yeah.
Okay? You didn't have a say over that.
Right.
Your parents had a doctor, a male doctor, if you're male, had a doctor take away part of your anatomy that you don't actually need to perform biological functions. Everything functions.
Right.
And I won't go into more details, but there's that.
Well, you know what I do have a problem with?
What's that?
I have a problem with doctors hacking at genitals that are in question for gender or like hermaphrodites or whatever.
Exactly.
I kind of think, and I'm not a doctor, but my opinion on that is that should be left alone until the child has a chance to develop and see what's going to happen to their body.
Right.
because I have seen in that, historically speaking, that they accidentally, in those processes, do the same thing as FGM, which they obliterate the ability for, you know, that child or that person.
Yeah, we know people who have
experienced that.
We've heard from people who
and that's wrong, and they shouldn't do it.
So Britain outlawed FGM in 1985 with new laws and requirements strengthening the legislation in 2003 and 2015, but there's never been a prosecution. While some doctors have been struck off the medical register for advising on or performing the procedure, banning them from practicing as medical professionals, not one case has actually gone to trial. In 2015 there was one, but it collapsed. The second ever prosecution against a father accused of arranging his daughter's genitals to be cut collapsed in 2018. Official figures by Britain's National Health Services reveal that last year there were 4,495 new cases of FGM in the preceding 12 months, the equivalent of one girl cut every 2 hours, 24 hours a day for a whole year. Gosh. That is only a total of 28,000 cases, 306 cases recorded in just 3 years. Still, that's only a fraction of the estimated 137,000 women who are child victims believed to be in England overall. Okay? You can't underestimate the power of political correctness. While the Department of Justice has said that it is committed to stopping FGM in the U.S., British police have provided mixed messages over what is more important, protecting children or avoiding offense, which is what we've seen in the Somali communities. Somali communities are like, thank you for getting the British government out of our communities. If we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And you're not going to stop us. Breitbart London reported in 2017 that West Midlands police said that prosecuting FGM was not a priority for the force as it was unlikely to benefit the child, saying they wanted to educate and safeguard vulnerable girls. How are you going to do that unless you start to punish people who do the things that are illegal? This is one of the worst forms. It is rape. This is a rape of a 12 or 13 or 14-year-old child, but people don't see it that way. They don't see it that way. And the people who compare it to circumcision, they don't see it that way either. It's absolutely insane.
Here, Nom Nom says circumcision is done by health professionals. FGM is done in a dirty place with dirty surgical tools, putting the patient at risk of severe agony, infection, and psychological trauma, and even death.
Yeah, and they do it to the girls so that they don't experience sexual pleasure. Again, men who are circumcised are fine. They are fine. Okay, I cover this all the time, but it's so important to recognize. European and American Islamic clerics have defended FGM over and over again. And what do you do when girls are taken abroad for mutilation? The CDC advises that while victims are being cut in the U.S., the victims are also sent abroad for the procedure. In the U.K., parents taking their daughters back to their countries of origin to have their genitals cut during the school summer holidays has become known as the cutting season.
Oh my God!
In the case of Britain, 86% of FGM cases where the details are known were undertaken in African countries, with young girls frequently taken abroad during the school vacation for a holiday by relatives to be cut.
All right, I'm capping this story. That's enough information. All you need to know is that we serve a righteous God and we can pray against this evilness. Because I do have to get going. We have to have some sort of good news, and I'm going to start with this. Eric Buskey, who made that amazing puppet of my mom. I haven't had a chance to repair the hair yet. The big one. His birthday is today. He's the one that has sent the ukuleles. And he had requested for his birthday that Leah and I do a cover of Grace VanderWaal's Beautiful Thing. It's a song that she wrote for her sister, okay? And I think he wanted us to play it on the ukulele. We have been very, very busy. We are going to do it because I want to do it, and I think it's going to be really fun. But I want to be able to do it well because I think that it deserves to be done well. So you'll have to give us some more time. Perhaps, maybe it'll be a Christmas present. Sometime between now and Christmas, we could learn the song.
Busy till now.
We are going to try.
January is a good slow month.
Right. We would, as we can. Okay. So, happy birthday, Eric. I hope it's a wonderful day. I have a feeling that you guys are celebrating with pizza, as you normally do when you celebrate our birthdays. You eat pizza. Kelly and Eric's show is now on Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They moved it from Friday, but drum roll, Chris Holman has debuted a new video, and I want you guys to go and check it out. He's in the chat. You can click on his name. And I guess I can officially say it. His ministry is called 9 Line Ministries, and I want you to go to his channel because I want him to explain it because I will probably butcher it. But it has to do with medical evac. So I'm really, really excited. He's going to come back at the first of the year with new content that's going to be ministry based. And I'm very excited about that. So I want you to check out his video. And so we're going to wrap up. We might do a show this week. We'll for sure do a show on Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our weekly roundup to round up whatever has happened this coming week. I hope you guys had a fantastic Thanksgiving. A lot of you celebrated it with us in our kitchen while Leah made the best lemon meringue pie
Didn't turn out
on the
too
planet.
shabby.
That pumpkin pie was delicious. The rolls that you watched her make, you need to actually try to put the recipe up there. It's in the Betty Crocker cookbook. Potato refrigerated roll
both
dough.
the pumpkin pie and the
Oh my gosh, it was so good.
Crocker.
It was so good. But the crust that I make is not.
And
so
it's Scotty Good who sent that pie book. I've already read through half
Art
of it.
of Pie. I've been eating
really
the
fun.
piggy gummies. Yeah.
Yeah,
So you guys are absolutely fantastic.
Do you have a little song, like some acapella thing that you can sing? What is the one song that we from what is the one song that we Heritage Hill song? The
Which
Calvary song. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but it's not coming to me. It's on my
Do you have
phone,
another one?
probably.
The lyrics?
No, not the lyrics, the actual song.
Is it Heritage Hill?
It is. Oh my, no. Britt
Come all
Baza,
you heavy laden.
we're not singing Jerusalem. We're not going to do it. We're not doing that. I want to thank all of our moderators who were here. I think everybody was here. Even Michael Thomas came out of the woodworks from California. Britt Baza, Maia, Chris, Kelly, Worth a Look was here. I think Gary's here. Thank you guys for being here. I hope you have a wonderful and blessed rest of your Sunday.
All right.
Across the pond and
Ready?
Around the world. Sing. No? I don't even know how to say that.
Well, we're doing some Christmas songs, I'm sure,
All right.
starting in December. But I gotta wait till December.
All right. You started out.
Come all you heavy laden. Come all you heavy laden. Come all you heavy laden. His burden is light. In the Garden of Gethsemane he prayed, sweating blood. Father, will you take this cup from me? If not, your will be done. Oh yeah, come all you heavy laden. Come all you heavy laden. Come all you heavy laden. His burden is light. Cat o' nine tails tore at his flesh. The lamb was torn and bruised. Put a crown of thorns upon his head. Here comes the King of Jews. Oh yeah, come all you heavy laden. Come all you heavy laden. Come all you heavy laden. His burden is light. Climbing up the mountain called the skull for our iniquities. Pardoning a thief hung on the cross. Today you'll be with me. Oh yeah, yeah. Come all you heavy laden.
Oh, come now.
Come all you heavy laden.
Lay it down
now. Come all you heavy laden. His burden is light. At his dying breath, the whole earth shook. The rock is split in two. Nailing every sorrow to his death, he paid for me and you. Oh yeah, yeah. Come all you heavy laden. Lay it down now. Come all you heavy laden. Lay it down. Come all you heavy laden. His burden is light. You were gonna go down, I was gonna go up.
But I didn't.
Yeah.
His burden is light. Hey, you found it. You found it at the end. It was like, ah, there you go. All right, you guys. Remember, it's not just a conspiracy theory.
It's the truth.
So we want you to like, comment, and subscribe to Mass Faith 3 and Resistance Chicks and ring that little bell so you can get notifications. Britt Baza pointed out that on Friday we had like 35 people here. Today we had 90. I think it's because on Friday nobody got notified. That's what I was being told. I think today you guys notifications. So that is fantastic. We love you.
God loves you.
God bless, and we'll see you back here this week. Don't forget to go to Kelly's channel and Chris Holman, where he's putting out new content, and will be officially doing so at the start of the year. All right. Good afternoon, guys. God bless.
It's cold all alone. No place for home every day. So afraid, but you call my name.